In Kenya, East Africa, 200 miles northeast of Nairobi and 3 miles south of the equator, lie a parcel of untamed wilderness named Kora. In 1989, Kora was upgraded from being a game reserve to a national park, mainly due to the efforts and life of one man, George Adamson. George became known as KampiYaSimba, the father of the lions. Base camp for rehabilitating lions was located beneath the 2 largest rock outcrops in Kora. And base camp was equally located within a few miles of the Tana River, the only source of water for animals or man. The only exception was during the rainy season, where the various rock outcrops provided pools of water. It was during this time the dry, barren land became vibrant and very much alive. Within this setting and environment was KampiYaSimba, Camp of the Lions. Simplistic in construction and purpose, KampiYaSimba was home and safe haven to a variety of critters who came daily from the bush. There was no hierarchy nor partiality. All were fed and came and went as they pleased. Each had a place and all shared. These memorable moments are what attracted many visitors and film crews to KampiYaSimba, as well as the born-free paradox found in the last 3 cubs. But George's concern was not that he be remembered, but that the work that he began in Kora would continue. In the early stages, the cubs were fed 3 to 4 times a day by anyone who had a heart to help. In 1 month, over 100 people came for a variety of reasons. But one thing was unanimous. All who participated in the life that George established were touched with the wonder and the joy of it. And as often as visitors changed, so did the needs of the cubs. When we began introducing the cubs to hand-ground meat purchased from local herdsmen, they began to flourish in stature and in attitude. As their energy and curiosity increased, we had to find new, creative ways to keep them amused. The workers were equally amused at the request and watching the preparation of their last indoor entertainment, this burlap sack filled with elephant dung. Living quarters for George and visitors was adjacent to, but separated from, the Cubs' boma. Everything needed for simple living conditions was provided. Also adjacent to the main camp area were the laborer huts. The two areas usually were separated, and it was rare for any laborer to cross over into the main camp area. The presentation of a swing, however, drew a new line in the sand. At the Cubs' presence in the main camp area, once calm and confident, friends from the bush, like these vervet monkeys, began to sit aloof and keeping watch. Even the camp goat, who had free rein and access to all living quarters, preferred a barrier. KampiYaSimba was a place to introduce or rehabilitate lions back into the wild, and at times that purpose was challenged by human activity. Human chatter, night and day, often drowned out the sounds of the bush. George agreed that a new enclosure independent of main camp activity would best serve the Cubs for wildlife rehabilitation. A place where the much-needed visitor support would be regulated around and according to the Cubs' needs. 2 trees at this site were planted on behalf of the 3 Cubs and on behalf of wildlife preservation in Kora. At the site of the Cubs in the main camp area, George soon recognized their introduction to life in the wild outside of any enclosure was ready to begin. The time had come for the Cubs to walk through these gates into a land, Kora, perfectly designed for their needs. Guidelines for walking the Cubs was simple. Only walk them in the heat of the day to avoid encounters with the pride of lions already established in Kora. Secondly, they were not to be taken down to the river, where the pride could be resting and other dangers were possible. The guidelines were simple, but keeping an eye on 3 curious Cubs at times proved difficult. Knowing their individual personalities and learning their exploration preferences was useful in locating their whereabouts. Rafiki loved to climb, and she, at this age, was the only Cub who could climb. Finding her usually meant looking up. Badian preferred the rock outcrops, well camouflaged, and less obstacles. He often was content on a rock outcrop, keeping watch over his sisters. Faraya was the smallest of the 3 cubs and the most affectionate. Rather than conquer her surrounding, she paid close attention to the details of it. At 83 years old, George had seen and helped generations of lions in Kora, and his presence was protection and assurance for wildlife. When George left camp, it was usually in his Land Rover and in search of the pride of lions in Kora, or going down to the river and other places of interest with visitors. Daily walks with the cubs, which lasted up to 3 hours a day, was something he entrusted to those most able for it. On a couple of occasions when George came for walks with the cubs, time and place took on historical and monumental proportions.